the truth of the matter is, once the 911 guy got up, or actually the non-emergency operator, who it wasn't even a 911 call, got up there and the defense started questioning him. Mm-hmm. It was all about the defense. Like the prosecution, and the operator was a prosecution witness. And the fact of the matter is, the defense got so much more out of this guy that helped George Zimmerman than the prosecution ever could.
Right.
You know, they dispelled the whole thing of this big stalking and chase that was supposedly happened. None of that happened. And there's a viable reason now for George Zimmerman to have followed him for a time, which he was doing, because the operator was actually saying, all right, well, tell me what else he does. And then he goes, okay, keep an eye on him. So now, in two instances, this operator is suggesting that George Zimmerman keeps an eye on this guy. And the defense was questioning the operator, saying, couldn't you assume that by what you said, that he would want to keep him in his vision, in his sight? The guy's like, yeah, I could assume that. And he goes, and there it is again. And they're playing the tape. And then he goes, all right, and there it is again. You just asked him again. If you could tell him what to do, keep an eye on. And then you hear him get out of the vehicle at one point, and you can hear him moving, and the wind from the cell phone, and he's moving. He goes, are you following him? He goes, yes. He goes, okay, we don't need you to do that. And then you hear that sound stop. He goes, now, don't you hear that sound anymore? He's like, no. He goes, what do you hear George Zimmerman say after you say, we don't need you to do that? He says, I believe George Zimmerman said, okay. Like all of this stuff that's been in the news about him chasing him down and the police ordered him to cease and desist and not to talk, all that falls right apart.
You didn't hear any of that?
I
never heard that played before where the guy says keep an eye on him. They don't play that one as much on the...
In two instances during that call, he's like, all right, tell me what he does. Well, keep an eye on him. Where is he going? What is it? Like, all this can be, it's not an absolute, but you can absolutely assume that the guy was fine with George Zimmerman keeping an eye on him, because they want to know. And he's like, now, why would you want to know the location of this guy? He goes, well, for the police, to give the police as much information. Why would you need to know that he's black? He was black. The information for the police, the description. Why would you need to know what he was wearing? Police. The police are being sent there. We need to give the police that information. So all of this that was chewed apart by people that are working on nothing but emotion can now see it in testimony that this is not the case. He wasn't chasing down with his gun out. He wasn't stalking somebody. He was following someone that he had called 911 on to give information to the operator as to where this guy is for when the police show up. That's it. And his demeanor on the call, they kept asking the guy who was 6 years on the job as an operator, did George Zimmerman sound angry at this point? Did he sound like he was upset? Did he sound... No. His demeanor was very calm through the whole thing. There wasn't any indication that he had any ulterior motive to go out and kill someone that night. And this is one witness in. Now, what you'll hear on the news is, knock, knock, who's there? Wow. Which is a horrid mistake for that. But they're not playing the other part. And this, by the way, will only, if George Zimmerman is acquitted, will only rile people up, because the news will have fed everyone all this stuff that still makes George Zimmerman look guilty. And if he's acquitted on the facts that only the jury and people that are watching the trial see, the regular person that has watched the news will be like, how did this guy get off with knock, knock guy and chasing him down and stalking? So, because the news isn't reporting this. They're going to be culpable in any fucking riots because they're not reporting this trial as it's happening and being honest about it. They're giving this presentation that George Zimmerman is guilty, and if he's acquitted, the layman who gets his info from the news is going to be like, how'd that happen? Must be injustice.
But the knock-knock joke is fantastic.
But the knock-knock joke is
fantastic.
A horrible bomb.
It is amazing how
sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Oh, no.
So let me...
Didn't you start off your set like this back in 2008? I think that's how you started off. Sometimes...
I'd like to tell you a little joke. I know how that may sound.
Here it comes, Alice.
In this context,
Night on a dog, Alice! Night on a dog!
But I think you're the perfect audience for it. As long as you if you don't like it or you don't think it's funny or inappropriate, that you don't hold it against Mr. Zimmerman. You can hold it against me.
Can you believe this?
What are you doing? Can you believe this? Assurance, you won't. Here's how it goes.
Here it comes.
Knock, knock. Who's there? George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman, who? All right, good. You're on the jury. Nothing? That's funny. After what you folks have been through the last 2 or 3 weeks?
That's funny. I'm funny.
This is going great.
Be more funny.
Oh, God.
Okay.
OMG.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
So, isn't this great?
That was
Okay, fuck it. What's next?
an incredible bomb.
That's why everything you just said doesn't matter.
Exactly.
They have to go with that.
That's what they're playing on every
You're
fucking
giving the news way
day.
too much credit.
Right.
Dude, he started off. Folks,
Here it
comes the joke.
Here it comes.
You might laugh. You don't want to cry. It's literally the worst setup. It's a terrible situation to do it in.
Uh-huh.
But to actually say it might make you laugh, it might. I've never heard anybody set themselves up to bomb so terribly.
The setup was longer than the actual joke.
Yes.
Way longer.
Oh, God.
That was horrible. Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If he had just done it, if he had
yeah.
said, look, I know how this has been going. It's been crazy with the media. You know, knock, knock, who's there? George Zimmerman, who? You're on the jury.
You're on the jury. I mean, that's the job you guys have had. As an aside, not this big fucking grand setup.
Sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying.
Sometimes you must laugh. Laugh, clown, laugh. You put Velcro on the ceiling, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a terrible.
3 if you slice them thin enough. But I digress. I digress.
Yeah. Guilty. Will the defendant please rise?
The warden. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. But
wet his lips and stick him to the window. Ladies and germs, I'm here all week.
Ladies and germs.
Why would he try to swim with all those chains? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you find my defendant.
Yes. Tires don't sing when you put chains on them. But seriously, folks.
You know. Oh, my God. Yeah, very bad.
Bad start.
Bad start.
Bad start.
And, the defense team really has to step up. The only saving grace is the fact that the prosecution has a horrendous job in trying to prove this case. There's nothing as far as true evidence that this is any more than a self-defense case. It's not second-degree murder. I mean, it's not. And it's a viable self-defense case. He's injured. Is proof that he was beaten, most likely by Trayvon. He answered with one shot at point-blank range at the last possible moment.
Where'd the shot hit him?
Right in the chest at the last possible moment. And but, the defense has to steer clear of these traps that the prosecution will set to pull them into this world of static, smoke and mirrors, that whole peripheral shit that the prosecution's going to pour into this case because they really don't have anything for the actual case, which is what the defense should stick to. So yesterday, the trial ended. Yesterday, they ended with the prosecution playing a couple of 911 tapes from prior calls that Zimmerman had made. And then after the first call, the defense gets up and goes, I want all that stricken from the record, and I don't want this being able to be played. And then the judge is like, you were asked if you have any objection to letting these into evidence, these 2 tapes. Yeah, I meant the mechanics of it, not the content and that. I don't want it in.
Who wanted it stricken?
The defense didn't want any on relevancy. He's like, look, the calls that George Zimmerman made prior to this have nothing to do with this case. So as far as relevancy goes, I don't want these in. But he should have objected to that when they tried to put it in evidence in the first place.
So you say the defense attorney fucked up.
The defense attorney fucked up. It's like he should have just objected right away to having him even put into evidence. So right after they played the first tape, which is George Zimmerman calling 911 and saying, neighbor's been robbed. My wife saw some guy that fits the description of one of the people that have robbed our neighbor. He's out there. I want you to come. And what this does, I guess, for the prosecution's thinking, is sets up this kind of pattern.
Profiling
pattern. I mean, if you have 10 fucking 911 calls from George Zimmerman and it's 10 black guys in hoodies, it could be looked at like, all right, is this guy just after black guys with hoodies? Truth of the matter is, everyone that's breaking into that place is a black guy in a hoodie. It's not George's fault that his description is the same every time. It's the black guys in the hoodies that are robbing the fucking place that seem to be the problem. But the prosecution can present it as a pattern. Now relevancy is a fucking issue. So they got to argue that. So the judge was like, look, you didn't put it in. You didn't object to it when we put it in. But she is allowing an argument to go. So they dismissed the jury yesterday. For the rest of the day as they discussed this, and then they decided they were just going to recess until 9 today and argue it like from 8:30 to 9 outside the view of the jury, and then start the case again at 9 today. So that's where they stopped yesterday. But I was sitting there before it even happened. I'm watching going, why the fuck are they allowing these previous calls to be played? The prosecution argued that since in the tape that is relevant, he says, oh, these assholes always get away. Oh, these fuckers do this all the time. He said it's relevant to see which assholes had gotten away in the past, and to play those tapes. But the defense is arguing that none of these have relevancy, and if they do allow this in, then some prior records of Trayvon's can be brought in.
By the way, this is what the Post talks about. This is what the paper says.
Yeah.
Curse of the killer. Trayvon trial opens with an F-bomb. But I mean, that's what the papers...
And that's the prosecution opened with, fuck and...
The word fuck.
Yeah.
Again,
what a dumb country.
That's what you're going to see, though, in this case.
We got the clip.
Yep.
Counsel, good morning.
The defense.
Fucking punks. These assholes, they always get away. Those were the words in that grown man's mouth.
Points at Zimmerman.
As he followed in the dark a 17-year-old boy.
Oh, stop
who
it.
he didn't know. And excuse my language, but those were his words, not mine. Fucking punks. These assholes, they always get away. Those were the words in that man's chest when he got out of his car, armed with a fully loaded semi-automatic...
Well, we have decided that we have to institute a 7-second delay. I want to apologize.
Oh, my God. The news should just go away. That was what? That was MSNBC.
And they're not even bound by the FCC.
No, right. Cable news.
It's obviously a huge trial, and as a news organization, you're going to fucking tap out of real language that's going down in the courtroom.
That's our country right there.
Yes.
And
dumb fucking Americans.
And then, like we just joked about, they'll go to a story where there's some fucking bloody body on the street.
It's in a court.
Because for some reason that's okay.
It's in a court of law where, protocol and things are very strictly adhered to, respect of the court, and that's allowed because it's such a
it's allowed on MSNBC, Jimmy.
Right.
People get confused, but on MSNBC, you're allowed to curse.
And the context of it, though, isn't just, some punks running around cursing. This is testimony.
Of course.
This is fucking,
Oh, my God.
And they can't even excuse it for that. They have to apologize.
Oh, Christ.
Unfucking believable.
It's disgusting.
It's embarrassing.
Our media is disgusting.
Dude, they're embarrassing.
Wow.
We're very sorry for we don't mind you hearing about the 17-year-old being shot in the chest.
Right.
But sorry, the F word slipped out.
Oh,
right.
God, they are fucking terrible.
The incident itself was horrific, what went down that night, no matter whose side you're on.
That is
But let's not curse on our TV.
How That's embarrassing.
It really is embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
We're an embarrassing country.
7-second delay. Oh.
We're going to tap out of the biggest trial in the country, which you all know somebody winds up dead in, because the F word was used. Legally, we don't have to, but we're such whores for the advertisers that General Electric or General Mills or whoever the fuck else is advertising may walk away. Not on the murder talk, but on the F-bomb. So being the prostitutes that we are, we're going to back out until we can somehow repaint Zimmerman terribly again for you.
Right.
You know, they dispelled the whole thing of this big stalking and chase that was supposedly happened. None of that happened. And there's a viable reason now for George Zimmerman to have followed him for a time, which he was doing, because the operator was actually saying, all right, well, tell me what else he does. And then he goes, okay, keep an eye on him. So now, in 2 instances, been in the news about him chasing him down, and the police ordered him to cease and desist and not to talk. All that falls right apart.
You didn't hear any of that?
Never
I never heard that played before, where the guy says, keep an eye on him. They don't play that one as much on the...
In 2 instances during that call, he's like, all right, tell me what he does. Well, keep an eye on him. Where is he going? What is it? Like, all this can be... you know, it's not an absolute, but you can absolutely assume. And then you hear him get out of the vehicle at one point, and you can hear him moving, and the wind from the cell phone, and he's moving. He goes, are you following him? He goes, yes. He goes, okay, we don't need you to do that. And then you hear that sound stop. He goes, now, do you hear that sound anymore? He's like, no. He goes, what do you hear George Zimmerman say after you say, we don't need you to do that? He says, I believe George Zimmerman said, okay. Like all of this stuff that says this operator is suggesting that George Zimmerman keeps an eye on this guy. And the defense was questioning the operator, saying, couldn't you assume that by what you said that he would want to keep him in his vision, in his sight? The guy's like, yeah, I could assume that. And he goes, and there it is again. And they're playing the tape. And then he goes, all right, and there it is again. You just asked him again if you could tell him what to do, keep an eye on. The truth of the matter is, once the 911 guy got up, or actually the non-emergency operator, who it wasn't even a 911 call, got up there, and the defense started questioning him. It was all about the defense. Like the prosecution, and the operator was a prosecution witness. And the fact of the matter is, the defense got so much more out of this guy that helped George Zimmerman than the prosecution ever could.